Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Renuka bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring to you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. President of Egypt Abdel Fattah el-Sisi to be the chief guest of India's 74th Republic Day celebration on January the 26th. India and Nepal celebrate 75 years of diplomatic relations, organize Sangeet Sukoon and Run for Life Marathon. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar says India stands in solidarity with Sri Lanka, ready to go to the extra mile for the neighbour. UNESCO dedicates 5th International Day of Education to Afghan girls and women under the theme to invest in people, prioritize education. And in cricket, India wins the second ODI of the 3-match series against New Zealand. President of Egypt Abdel Fattah el-Sisi will pay a state visit to India from the 24th to the 26th of this month. President el-Sisi will be the chief guest at India's 74th Republic Day. He will be accompanied by a high-level delegation, including 5 ministers and senior officials. This is for the first time that the President of Egypt has been invited as a chief guest on India's Republic Day celebrations. A military contingent from the Egyptian army will also participate in the Republic Day parade. India and Egypt are celebrating 75 years of establishment of diplomatic relations this year. India and Egypt are expected to sign around half a dozen Memorandum of Understanding MOU in areas ranging from agriculture to digital during Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's visit to the country. El-Sisi is scheduled to arrive in New Delhi on the 24th of January. President el-Sisi will be accorded a ceremonial welcome at the Rashtrapati Bhavan on the 25th of January. The President of Egypt will have a bilateral meeting and delegation-level talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi on bilateral, regional and global issues of mutual interest. He will also meet Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will call on President el-Sisi. The Egyptian President is also expected to interact with the Indian business community during the visit. A commemorative stamp marking 75 years of diplomatic ties between India and Egypt will be released during his visit. The United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, has decided to dedicate this year's International Day of Education to Afghan girls and women. The 5th International Day of Education will be celebrated on 24th of January under the theme to invest in people, prioritize education. The UNESCO said girls and women in Afghanistan have been deprived of their right to education. It called for the immediate lifting of the ban restricting their access to education. Director General Audrey Azoulay said, "No country in the world should bar women and girls from receiving education, and it is a universal human right that must be respected." She further said that the international community has the responsibility to ensure that the rights of Afghan girls and women are restored without delay. According to the UNESCO, currently around 80% of school-aged Afghan girls and young women are out of school under the Taliban rule, as they denied them access to secondary schools and universities. To celebrate 75 years of diplomatic ties between India and Nepal, the Embassy of India in Kathmandu organized a music concert, Sangeet Sukoon, on Friday. The event also marked 75 years of India's independence and the 74th Republic Day of India. The event was attended by Prime Minister of Nepal, Pushpa Kamal Dahal, former Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli, and other senior leaders. Foreign Minister Bimala Rai Paudyal and Chief of Army Staff of Nepali Army, General Prabhu Ram Sharma, were also among other dignitaries who attended the event.
Patan Darbar Square UNESCO Heritage Site is becoming a witness to the memorable moments of the historical India-Nepal friendship today, as captivated by Sangeet Sukoon. Indian Embassy organized Sangeet Sukoon evening in Patan Museum of Lalitpur in Bagmati province. The present museum is the ancient royal palace where the Malla kings of Lalitpur resided. The event was graced with Mayor of Lalitpur and other dignitaries who were captivated by the musical evening. Sangeet Sukoon is a celebration of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav as well as 75 years of India-Nepal diplomatic relationship. Musicians of Jiapu Samaj Yela performed in the Sangeet Sukoon event, which is local community playing indigenous music for the audience. Music band Carnatic 2.0 from India performed classic Carnatical music for Nepal audience. In another event, 5-kilometer marathon Run for Life was organized by Indian Embassy in Kathmandu today. Hundreds of college-going students rescued human trafficking victims, sportspersons, health enthusiasts, medics and children ran the marathon promoting running as a healthy lifestyle. On the occasion of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav celebration in Nepal, Indian Ambassador Naveen Srivastav emphasized adopting a healthy lifestyle. He informed that the Run for Life marathon celebrates 75 years of diplomatic ties between India and Nepal as well as 75 years of India's independence. The marathon started from Pashupatinath temple premises and took a route of 5 kilometers back to Pashupatinath in 1 hour duration. The event was graced by Everest climbers and young sports stars who inspired people to actively run on daily basis to be mentally agile and physically fit. Marathon winner was awarded gold medal after completion of the marathon.
Because daily, due to the hustle and hassle, we have to finish a lot of activities and do a lot of stuff. So Run for Life inspires me to push my limits for fitness, and so as a result it's quite important for me. Yeah, I'm working out a lot. I run a lot daily. I go for a jog for like 2 to 3 kilometers daily, but I haven't jogged for 5 kilometers yet, so I'm trying to test my limits as well today.
Chris Hipkins is set to become New Zealand's next Prime Minister as he was the sole contender for the post to replace Jacinda Ardern. 44 years of age, Chris Hipkins now needs to be formally endorsed by the Labour Party in the House of Representatives tomorrow before he can become the leader. Jacinda Ardern's surprise resignation sparked a Labour Party leadership contest. President Draupadi Murmu, Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar and Prime Minister Narendra Modi have extended greetings on the Statehood Day of Manipur, Meghalaya and Tripura. President Murmu said, the rich culture, natural beauty and abiding traditions of these states enrich the nation's diversity. She said that the people of these states are known for their talent and spontaneity. The Vice President lauded the people of these states for their remarkable contributions to national development and wished for their prosperous future. Prime Minister Modi said, Tripura has witnessed a great growth trajectory in the last 5 years. He wished for this trend to continue. He added that Meghalaya is known for its vibrant culture, particularly music, art and passion towards sports, and its people have excelled in diverse fields. He also prayed for the aspirations of the people of Manipur to be fulfilled and for the state to keep strengthening India's growth trajectory. Several union ministers, including Home Minister Amit Shah, INB Minister Anurag Singh Thakur, also wished the states on their Statehood Day. In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a news commentary on India's cement ties with Sri Lanka.
India is Sri Lanka's closest neighbor. The relationship between the two countries is more than 2,500 years old, and both sides have built upon a legacy of intellectual, cultural, religious and linguistic interaction. In recent years, the relationship has been marked by close contacts at the highest political level, growing trade and investment, cooperation in the fields of development, education, culture and defense, as well as a broad understanding on major issues of international interest. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Sri Lanka in 2017 to attend the UN International Vesak Day celebrations as well as to address the upcountry Indian origin Tamils was an important step in advancing bilateral relations. The External Affairs Minister's visit to Sri Lanka was a follow-up on his earlier visits to Sri Lanka in January 2021 and March 2022. Dr. Jaishankar said Sri Lanka is a close friend and neighbor, and India has stood with the people of Sri Lanka at all times. During the visit, External Affairs Minister called on Sri Lankan President Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe and Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena and also held discussions with Sri Lanka's Minister of Foreign Affairs Mr. M.U.M. Ali Sabri on the entire gamut of close India-Sri Lanka partnership and steps to strengthen it in all spheres. Dr. Jaishankar reviewed various aspects of the bilateral relations and Indian-aided projects in Sri Lanka with his Sri Lankan counterpart soon after his arrival in Colombo. India has informed the International Monetary Fund, IMF, about its assurance which the global lender wants from creditors for providing a much-needed bailout to the cash-strapped island nation. Sri Lanka, which is trying to secure a $2.9 billion bridge loan from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, was negotiating to get financial assurances from its major creditors, China, Japan and India, which is the requisite for Colombo to get the bailout package. The IMF bailout has been put on a hold as Sri Lanka pursues talks with creditors to meet the global lender's condition for the facility. Sri Lanka's unprecedented economic crisis had paradoxically brought the best out of India's concerns for its southern neighbor, given the island nation's proximity in economic cooperation with China until then. When the crisis started to bite a year ago, India came forward with assistance worth $4 billion. President Wickremesinghe had told Sri Lankan Parliament that his government has successfully completed its debt restructuring talks with India. In January 2022, India announced a $900 million loan to Sri Lanka to build up its depleted foreign reserves as the financial crisis began to unfold. Later, it offered a $500 million credit line to Sri Lanka to fund the country's fuel purchases. The credit line was later expanded to $700 million due to the sheer gravity of the situation. The Indian credit lines since early 2022 have been in use to import essentials and fuel after street protests erupted due to severe shortages of essentials. India's Finance Ministry has informed IMF Chief Kristalina Georgieva that New Delhi has confirmed its support to Sri Lanka on the issue of debt restructuring. Last week, Sri Lanka completed its debt restructuring talks with Japan. The External Affairs Minister incidentally became the first foreign dignitary during the economic crisis to visit Sri Lanka. His visit in March last year at the height of the crisis assured Sri Lankans that India's neighbourhood first policy was pretty much in play. Sri Lanka has been a close friend and neighbour to India. New Delhi has broad-based and developed cooperation with Colombo. The Ministry of External Affairs said that education is another important area of cooperation between India and Sri Lanka. India now offers many scholarship slots annually to deserving Sri Lankan students, which benefits not only regular undergraduate studies, but also provides opportunities for higher research. In addition, under the Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation Scheme and the Colombo Plan, India offers slots annually to Sri Lankan nationals for short and medium-term training courses in a wide variety of technical and professional disciplines. Sri Lanka is India's key maritime neighbour in the Indian Ocean region and occupies special place in Prime Minister's vision of Sagar, security and growth for all in the region and neighbourhood first. The External Affairs Minister's visit is a testimony to the importance that India attaches to its close and friendly relations with Sri Lanka.
This is All India Radio giving you the world news. External Affairs Minister Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar has said that India is a reliable neighbour, a trustworthy partner and one who is prepared to go extra mile when Sri Lanka feels the need. He said his visit expresses India's solidarity with Sri Lanka in difficult times in line with the neighbourhood first policy of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Dr. Jaishankar made the announcement during his just concluded two-day visit to Sri Lanka.
I would like to underline that India is a reliable neighbour, a trustworthy partner, one who is prepared to go the extra mile when Sri Lanka feels the need. My presence here today is a statement about Prime Minister Modi's commitment to neighbourhood first. We will stand by Sri Lanka in this hour of need and are confident that Sri Lanka will overcome the challenges that it currently faces.
The Sri Lankan Foreign Minister Ali Sabri thanked Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi for the generous and timely assistance India extended during the previous year.
The relationship between Sri Lanka and India are based on cultural and historical links, shared values and growing economic connection. It is widely accepted that we will be soon, or otherwise already, is one of the largest and fastest growing economies.
Earlier, Dr. Jaishankar called on Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe and discussed the political and economic situation and stressed on the need to pay special attention to the requirements of Indian origin Tamils. Dr. Jaishankar met Sri Lankan Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardene, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa and leader of the opposition Sajith Premadasa. He also handed over Ashok Leyland buses to Transport Minister Bandula Gunawardene. Dr. Jaishankar interacted with representatives of the business community in Colombo and discussed the importance of economic growth as a solution to current challenges. More from our correspondent.
The assurance comes at a time when Sri Lanka makes efforts to unlock a $2.9 billion bridge financing from the Global Bank. He also stressed on the bilateral cooperation between the two countries in the spheres of trade, energy security, connectivity and tourism. In his interaction with the Sri Lankan President, Dr. Jaishankar shared India's considered view on full implementation of 13th Amendment and early conduct of provincial elections. He also spoke on special attention to the requirements of Indian origin Tamils. The minister extended Prime Minister Narendra Modi's invitation to Mr. Wickremesinghe to visit India to take the discussion forward on India's partnership in Sri Lanka's recovery. For AIR News, Ahmed Moin Farooqi, Colombo.
Now let's have a look at the G20 events this week.
G20 India 2023. One Earth, one family, one future. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
India is hosting a series of meetings for G20 delegates across the country. This week, the cities in focus were Pune in the western Indian state of Maharashtra, where the first G20 Infrastructure Working Group meeting was held from 16th to 17th of January. Another big-ticket event was the first G20 Health Working Group meeting at Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala from 18th to 20th of January. In keeping with the theme of One Earth, One Family, One Future, participants deliberated upon global cooperation to tackle the issues related to urban infrastructure and healthcare. We take a close look at G20 events in India this week. Pune G20 meeting. The first G20 Infrastructure Working Group meeting under India's G20 presidency was held in Pune from 16th to 17th of January. The meeting was hosted by the Department of Economic Affairs under the Union Ministry of Finance. India is the chair, while Australia and Brazil were the co-chairs. 64 delegates from 18 countries, 8 invited nations and 8 international organizations attended the meeting. The G20 Infrastructure Working Group discussed the 2023 infrastructure agenda under the Indian G20 presidency. Joint Secretary in the Department of Economic Affairs under the Ministry of Finance, Solomon Arukyaraj, outlined the priorities and the outcomes of the deliberations.
Urban centers grow, there will be a lot of pressure on the natural ecosystem, so we need to conserve them for future. So that's going to be one of the key themes. Second theme is resilience. Resilience is ability of the city to withstand any shock. Maybe it is because of the climatic factor or maybe because of economic situation. These kind of shocks when happen, how should cities respond and recover faster? The third one is inclusivity. So equal access for services for every citizen.
In this two-day meeting, the flagship theme of Financing Cities of Tomorrow, Inclusive, Resilient and Sustainable was discussed. The workshop also discussed how cities and governments could prepare themselves to increase private financing for cities of tomorrow. The foreign delegates also experienced the rich cuisine, history and culture of Pune. G20 India Health. The other major event of the week was the first G20 Health Working Group meeting at Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala from 18th to 20th of January. Union Minister of State for Health and Family Welfare, Dr. Bharti Praveen Pawar, inaugurated the three-day event. She said pandemic policy must be a defining part of our health policy. The minister said that the learnings must form the agenda for our preparedness and response together, as COVID-19 will not be the last pandemic.
Despite facing the challenges posed by once-in-a-century crisis, G20 countries have consistently worked towards promoting coordinated efforts among its members to ensure the achievement of good and equitable health for all. Health became an integral part of the G20 agenda with the establishment of health working groups during the German presidency in 2017.
In his keynote address, Union Minister of State for External Affairs V. Muralidharan highlighted India's strong culture of medical practices and innovation. The three-day meeting focused on three main priorities: health emergency prevention, preparedness and response, strengthening cooperation in the pharmaceutical sector, and digital health innovations to aid universal health coverage. Day 1 of the G20 Health Working Group meeting saw discussions on ways to tackle the urgent challenges in the health sector, mainly by microbial resistance. The participants took stock of cooperation in pharmaceutical sector and the provision of safe and low-cost healthcare systems. On the second day, discussions were held on digital health innovations to aid universal health coverage, solutions to urgent challenges in the health sector, and international cooperation in the field of pharmaceuticals and digital health were among the key areas.
Dr. V.K. Paul, Member Health Nidhi Aayog, said that medical value travel plays a crucial role in eliminating healthcare disparities across the globe, and through the first G20 Health Working Group meeting under India's presidency, aims to create pathways to bridge this gap. Mr. Paul said this on the closing day of the G20 Health Working Group meeting in Thiruvananthapuram. The three-day meeting focused on three priority issues such as solution to the urgent challenges in the health sector, international cooperation in the field of pharmaceuticals, and digital health. Union Minister of State for Health, Bharti Praveen Pawar, Minister of State for External Affairs, V. Muralidharan, senior officials of Health Ministry, health experts, representatives from G20 countries, international organizations and other special invitees participated in the meeting.
Union Minister of State for Health, Bharti Praveen Pawar, emphasized that India's aim during the G20 presidency is to focus on value-based healthcare and universal health coverage. She was speaking at the inaugural session on medical value travel on the sidelines of the first Health Working Group meeting in Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala on Thursday. The minister highlighted India's delivery of anti-COVID drugs to 101 countries through the Vaccine Maitri mission. Karnataka G20 Working Group. A sensitization workshop on G20 environment and climate sustainability was held in Bengaluru on Friday. The participants include the forest departments of all the states, associated international organizations, knowledge partners, local influential persons, media and community representatives. The idea is to deliberate on the identified themes and sub-themes listed for discussion during the first G20 Working Group meeting on environment and climate sustainability. It will document, compile and collate the best practices from across the states in the country and present them during the G20 Working Group meeting next month. The event is significant since the first meeting of the G20 Working Group on Environment and Climate Sustainability is scheduled in Bengaluru from the 9th to 11th of February. The G20 Working Group will focus on arresting land degradation, restoration of degraded lands, and enhancement of biodiversity. It will put specific emphasis on the restoration of areas affected by forest fire and mining. 4 meetings of the G20 Working Group on Environment will be held across the country. UP G20 Walkathon. Meanwhile, Uttar Pradesh is gearing up for the upcoming G20 meetings in the state. A G20 walkathon was organized in its 4 major cities on Saturday morning. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath flagged off the run in Lucknow, while other senior ministers were present in the walkathon organized in Agra, Noida and Varanasi. Youth, NCC cadets, senior citizens and students participated in large numbers in the walkathon held in the 4 cities. A total of 11 meetings related to G20 conference will be organized in UP. Related events will be held in 4 cities of the state, including Varanasi, Lucknow, Agra and Greater Noida.
G20 दुनिया के वे 20 बड़े देश हैं जहां पर दुनिया की 60% से अधिक आबादी निवास कर रही है। दुनिया के 75% से अधिक ट्रेड पर जिनका अधिकार है, दुनिया की 85% जीडीपी पर जिन देशों का अधिकार है और दुनिया के अंदर इनोवेशन, रिसर्च और पेटेंट में 90% से अधिक पर जिनका अधिकार है, दुनिया के वे 20 बड़े देश G20 के नाम पर जाने जाते हैं और दुनिया के उन 20 बड़े देशों का नेतृत्व आज उत्तर प्रदेश को प्राप्त हुआ है।
Before we wrap up the G20 events in India this week, here is a quick look at the upcoming events. The first meeting of the Financial Architecture Working Group will take place in Chandigarh from 30th to 31st of January under the Finance track. Besides, the first meeting of the Education Working Group under the Sherpa track will be held from 31st of January to 2nd of February in Chennai.
G20 India 2023. One Earth, one family, one future.
The Information and Broadcasting Ministry has issued directions to YouTube and Twitter to block multiple YouTube videos which published the first episode of the BBC documentary India, The Modi Question. Sources said orders were also issued to Twitter for blocking of over 50 tweets containing the links of the concerned YouTube videos. The directions were reportedly issued by Information and Broadcasting Secretary yesterday using the emergency powers under the IT Rules 2021. Sources said that both YouTube and Twitter have complied with the directions. Indian women's hockey team has defeated South Africa 4-0 in their third match of the 4-match test series in Cape Town yesterday. Vandana Kataria, Deep Grace Ikka, Rani Rampal and Sangeeta Kumari scored for India to give the visitors an unstoppable 3-0 lead in the test series. In the SIH Hockey Men's World Cup, India will take on New Zealand in Bhubaneswar tomorrow in a crossover match to qualify for the quarterfinals. The match will begin at 7 p.m. Indian time. In cricket, India defeated New Zealand by 8 wickets in the second one-day international at Raipur to clinch the 3-match series 2-0. Chasing the target of 109 runs, India overhauled the score, posting 111 runs with the loss of 2 wickets in 20.1 overs. Skipper Rohit Sharma smashed a half-century, contributing 51 runs off 50 balls, while Shubham Gill remained unbeaten on 40 of 53 deliveries. The third and final ODI will be played in Indore on Tuesday. And now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Straits Times writes China says COVID-19 outbreak has infected 80% of population. The Global Times writes Chinese travel agencies ramp up efforts preparing overseas trips following the reopening of outbound group tour services. The Financial Times writes Germany defies allies' pressure to send tanks to Ukraine. The Guardian also writes Kenya declares war on millions of birds after they raid crops. The New York Times writes one of the most influential ambassadors in Washington isn't one. And now a quick look at the headlines once again. President of Egypt Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to be the chief guest of India's 74th Republic Day celebration on January the 26th. India and Nepal celebrate 75 years of diplomatic relations, organize Sangeet Sukoon and Run for Life Marathon. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar says India stands in solidarity with Sri Lanka, ready to go to the extra mile for the neighbour. UNESCO dedicates 5th International Day of Education to Afghan girls and women under the theme to invest in people, prioritize education. And in cricket, India wins the second ODI of the 3-match series against New Zealand. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favourite bhajan Vaishnav by artists from Haiti.
Vaishnav Shalako Tene Kahiye Je Vire Paragi Jare Paraduke Upakara Kare Doe Paraduke Upakara Kare Doe Mana Abhiman Na Ane.
And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.